Welcome back to Pages, Panels, and Pictures, your source for comics, movies, and more. We're about a week out from the premiere of Moonlight on Disney Plus, and they are hyping us up with a plethora of trailers and TV spots. I know me and Todian can't wait to get into it, so without further ado, here we go.
I'll start by saying I'm not the biggest Moon Knight fan. His comics always were kind of the same to me. It was always just him being crazy. And they, in later comics, like there's a run by a writer named Warren Ellis back in, I think, 2016. And he pretty much changed the game with Moon Knight. He's who invented the Mr. Knight character, the one in the suit from all like the posters and stuff. And he really made a definitive character for Moon Knight instead of just being all over the place. Whoever's writing him at the time would just write him however they wanted, and it worked because Moon Knight is so out of touch with reality and stuff. But as a whole, not my thing. But that being said, these trailers and everything, they have me pretty hyped for this series. Oscar Isaac, I think, is going to kill it. I love how in the trailer he's completely different depending on the personality he's playing at the time. It feels like different actors almost. With all of this stuff and with me not knowing enough about Moon Knight personally, it raises a lot of questions for the series. So the first question we have is, what is Moon Knight even going to be about? How much I'm gonna catch shit for saying this. I'll just say it flat out. Everyone does when they say it. Moon Knight is just the Marvel answer to Batman. He started out just being, honestly, in my opinion, a less interesting Batman, way less interesting. But over the years, they definitely shifted the tone of him. The Warren Ellis run I was talking about earlier, leaning into Egyptology more and stuff, it definitely helped distinguish him from Batman. And based on the stuff I've done in preparation for this episode, in preparation for the Roach Boys Comic Corner, stay tuned, that's coming later today. It's definitely, over the years, he has become his own character, and I appreciate that. That makes me like the character a little more. I never liked the idea of these characters just getting reskinned across DC and Marvel. Like, we don't need another Batman. We don't need another Wolverine. We don't need another Captain America. We have those. We love those. Uh, but
It's true.
besides that, Mark suffers from DID, dissociative identity disorder, and he shares his mindscape with two other authors, at least at the beginning of his story, being Jake Lockley, who is a ear to the street cab driver. He's like down with the underworld and stuff, like he knows all the ins and outs of the hood. Then you have Stephen Grant, who is the like millionaire playboy persona. He gets Moon Knight all his intel and information, and it ends with the higher ups in the world.
You got to have one of those.
For sure, it's his Bruce Wayne essentially. Although Mark in the comics, Mark Spector is the prime personality of Moon Knight, his main alter. It seems like in this series, Moon Knight is going to be headed by Stephen Grant's persona, which is the British museum worker that we've seen in most of the content from the trailers up until late. But in the comics, Moon Knight's a mercenary named Mark Spector. He's from a Jewish dad. He escaped like Nazi persecution and stuff, blah blah blah. I'm sure they'll touch on that a little bit, but if anything, they'll save that for later down the line, his character, so they can cover this part. He goes on an expedition with an archaeologist under the supervision of a guy named Saul Bushman. On that expedition, Bushman kills the archaeologist, and when Mark tries to go after him for it, he leaves Mark on the brink of death too. Eventually, Mark gets taken to the statue of Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon, and in exchange for his services as the acolyte of this god, he will heal and revive him and give him his power. That's pretty much who Moon Knight is. We don't know what the show necessarily is going to be about. We have some ideas, and we'll get to that with our next question. Who is the villain of the series, or villains, if there's multiple? I already touched on Sal Bushman, who later becomes Bushmaster, I believe he goes by. But it looks like in this iteration of Moon Knight, he's somehow going to come into possession of some golden scarab artifact, and Arthur Harrow, played by Ethan Hawke, is going to be essentially going after that, and we don't exactly know why. But we'll come back to the Scarab on another note as well. Harrow has some type of mystical power. Chances are he might also be the acolyte in possession of one of these other gods' powers.
Yeah.
Based on the trailer and everything we've seen, it would be Amet, the Devourer of the Dead. He has the head of an alligator, the body of a lion, and something else. The imagery that Ethan Hawke's character has shown, his cane has alligator heads on it. He has that scale marking on his arm that they showed moving back and forth. The sides of the scale are actually alligator heads as well. That sounds pretty crazy. We saw him summon our next villain we can talk about. A lot of people thought it was going to be Werewolf by Night. We saw Moon Knight in the first trailer beating the dog shit out of some canine, no pun intended, out of some canine looking creature. And all the fans thought it was Werewolf by Night. That's where Moon Knight first appeared in the Werewolf by Night title as a mercenary who was hired to hunt and kill Jack Russell. Yes, Werewolf by Night's real name is Jack Russell. It turns out that it's more than likely based off of the humanoid jackal Nubis themed villains that were in the 2016 Warren Ellis run, and
Yeah.
there's precedence to that based on the fact that Ethan Hawke's character even is seen summoning that in the one clip that they posted on the YouTube page. So it's more than likely going to be one of these jackals, but who knows? There could be something deeper to it. The jackals didn't really have too much involvement in the story. They were kind of just like they seemed like they would be summoned by Ethan Hawke. But
Yeah.
and then my final mention goes back to one of our earliest rumors and leaks that we talked about on the channel about the series. Dracula. Dracula could be a villain in this. Back in the day, maybe 4 months ago when we started this channel, a lot of the leaks were saying that he was going to be making an appearance, more to set up the Midnight Suns, which we'll talk about, than being the villain himself. But even if Dracula's a post-credit scene villain like Thanos was, that would be cool with me.
So, as in the Marvel iteration of Dracula, or the classic iteration that most of us are accustomed to?
The Marvel iteration of Dracula. He's pretty much the same Dracula, but he now has beef with Blade and Morbius and other supernatural characters in the Marvel comics. So
I can dig.
not much explanation needed on him. If anything, we can dive into the differences if he actually is a part of Moon Knight. But that brings us to our final question of the Moon Knight segment, which is, who are the Midnight Suns, and how will they tie into the future of Moon Knight? So in a recent interview, Oscar Isaac stated that he would like to see Moon Knight running alongside of the Midnight Suns, name drop them and everything. And on top of name dropping them as a team over other teams like the Avengers, he even gave us a lineup that he, in his head, pictured being Daredevil, Punisher, Blade, Moon Knight, and Ghost Rider. And
Wow.
to most people, that probably seems like he's just spouting off a team in his head that of people that were part of the team in the comics. But Daredevil is very rarely, if ever, if not never, involved with the Midnight Suns in the comics. So that, to me, sounds a little bit like he's a little tease. It talks about Punisher by name, who also he's definitely part of the Midnight Suns team more than Daredevil, but he still has little involvement with the supernatural side. It feels like it would be hard to fit him in if they are going for characters like Ghost Rider and Moon Knight and all these mystical people. But I think it'd be cool if John Bernthal reprised his role and was kind of like the in over his head guy. He's set up for war crimes and fucking government conspiracies. He's not set up for fucking gods and spirits. So
he'd be Jeff Jones in the Defenders.
Exactly. It would be so cool. And he still has the skill to back up the fact that he would be in over his head, because even if he is, it'd be cool to see him gun down demons and jackal entities and shit. I could dig it. And the main one, I guess, that we can talk about is Ghost Rider, though. we know Daredevil's already here, and we can see him coming in the MCU in a lot of different titles. Punisher, same thing. But Ghost Rider has not appeared in the canon MCU yet.
Yeah,
We've had two different versions of him. We had the Ghost Rider solo film, Johnny Blaze, played by Nicolas Cage, and then we had the Agents of Shield version with the muscle car Robbie Reyes, played by Gabriel Luna. So
yeah,
I'm thinking it would be really cool if they acknowledge both of those characters as canon in the MCU finally, even if it's throughout the multiverse. But there's another Ghost Rider, actually the second one before Robbie Reyes, Danny Ketch. And when people think of Ghost Rider with the leather jacket and the chains and stuff, that is Danny Ketch. Johnny Blaze normally wears like an Evel Knievel stunt rider motorcycle outfit. So that is the most popular version of Ghost Rider, and I think it would be cool if like he shows up as the MCU's Ghost Rider and then acknowledges the other two as the other Ghost Riders and the other Spirit of Vengeances out there. I would
yeah.
love to see that, and I think it would be a cool change of pace because a lot of these characters have different artifacts or items or reasons that Blade, who seems to be the supernatural version of Nick Fury, he went and recruited Dane Whitman because of the Ebony Blade. Well, seemingly recruited him and all but confirmed via interviews and stuff. So I think he could find Moon Knight through either this Golden Scarab artifact or how the comic, he just has a cloth costume with the moon on it. It's actually a crescent moon relic of some sort weaved into the costume through the bandages. He could be interested in that, and he could present Mark with the opportunity to join up with a team that he's starting. We need teams. We don't have the Avengers. We still don't have FF, and X-Men are looking farther out than FF based on movie title releases. So,
Guardian Deep Space.
and they're about done too after this next film. So we're gonna need the Midnight Suns, and I think Blade Mahershala Ali has enough charisma as an actor, and he's a great actor, so he can fit that role to be the masthead, similar to Robert Downey or Chris Evans. And Blade as a character has the clout to fucking be a masthead for this dark supernatural side of the MCU. Wesley Snipes and his Blade movies put superhero films on the map, and
Yes.
this honestly might be one of the most anticipated solo films in the MCU so far. People are so excited. I've heard nothing but good things and excitement from both cast and fans, crew, everyone. It sounds like it's going to be a great time. I can't wait for that. With him heading that, I think Ghost Rider is the only person on the listed team by Oscar Isaac that would feel above that power level. So he also doesn't really have a relic unless like they would do something with like a shard of Mephisto or something giving him his power. So it would be cool if Ghost Rider actually would be the one member of the team who would come and seek out Blade. Uh, he has knowledge of like things like Mephisto and the underworld, Dormammu, all that. So that would be a perfect way to get Blade's knowledge from like vampires and supernatural relics and artifacts onto the real meat and potatoes of what's going on in the dark dimension and shit. And I think that would be perfect setup. And just to double down on it, I do think that is a tease from Oscar Isaac and the producers and Kevin Feige himself. It feels that way based on the team lineup. What are your thoughts on that? Honestly, seeing like that team lineup, or just in general, your thoughts so far on anything we've talked about? I've kind of just been rambling.
Well, honestly, I'm just really excited for the Midnight Suns concept. It's very new to me. I didn't know that this team was a team until recently. I'm a fan of all of them separately. Really, I don't have many detailed thoughts about it just because it's all fresh and new to me. So that's why I'm enjoying you talking about it because I'm learning even more. I love Ghost Rider. I think that your Ghost Rider idea would be dope. Blade, Mahershala Ali. It's not that I'm not sold on him. I just like them as Cottonmouth. So I'm just gonna have to see a little bit more. And I'm here for it. And I am. I can't wait to see the team, man. and I think it would be dope. It kind of reminds me of Justice League Dark, which I'm a huge fan of that cartoon. And yeah, dude, like I can't wait, honestly.
And with the death of William Hurt,
Yeah,
we kind of lost the outlet of the Thunderbolts, so they would have to go like the Dark Avengers route or something. But in the meantime, they have a really good dark side of the MCU team together, or coming together in the Midnight Suns. So this is the perfect time to introduce all of these characters and get this team rolling. We have an
yeah,
absence of teams, and we have an absence of anti-heroes specifically. But that kind of leads me into the last point on the Midnight Suns. Outside of the 5 members of the team that were listed by Isaac, the MCU does have a few other possibilities that could show up as part of the team, and one of them is who I was talking about earlier, Doctor Strange. He even seems in over his head with Multiverse of Madness and stuff. So amongst all the cleanup from that movie, which is a perfect way to introduce the Midnight Suns, I think he would be smart to seek out help.
yeah.
And in the comics, he's a heavy part of the team. So I think that would be a good introduction. But if not him, either Wong or Mordo. I know we've been hearing a lot about Wong dying in Multiverse, but Mordo would be a cool addition to the team, honestly. He's more of a dark side of the sorcerer spectrum from the other two, so he would fit better. But
The Wong ain't going to be our Wong. I guarantee it.
we've been talking about this a while. Why are there 5 Stranges but one Wong? I know there's more than one Wong, man. The other member that we pretty much know is going to be a part of the team outside of them is Black Knight, Kit Harington playing him.
That's right.
He's tied to Blade in the comics. He's tied to Blade now in the movies. Ebony Blade is tied to vampires as a whole. It's used to slay them throughout history. So that's a given. But then there's a few that we can talk about that are like weird ones. Morbius. Morbius is taking place maybe in the Sonyverse. We don't know yet. And it doesn't sound like that movie is going to be too hot. Everything we've heard, you told me yesterday, and then I had to research it. People are not excited for this movie. Early reviews are not that good, and that's disappointing because Jared Leto is he's talented and he's gonna be a good Morbius. The movie's just gonna be bad. But what's up with bringing him into the MCU, putting him under some Marvel Studios direction, and getting this shit right?
And we might have to wait 12 years for that.
That's for sure. It was hard enough getting Spider-Man. But
Yeah.
and the last one we can talk about is Werewolf by Night. He's getting a Halloween special this year. Outside of that, his title is where Moon Knight first appeared, like I mentioned earlier. He was hired to hunt him, blah blah blah. The thing that really stands out is the Halloween special. It strikes me as odd that a character like that would get a Halloween special unless they're planning on using him and using this as an introduction so they don't have to do it later.
Yeah.
And that's cool with me. He doesn't need a whole series like Moon Knight does. We get it. He's a werewolf. So a Halloween special would do, and then you could bring him in, or even include Moon Knight in the holiday special or the Halloween special, similar to how they included Boba Fett, his introduction in the holiday special of Star Wars in the 70s.
It's a good example.
But so I know we've been barking up this tree since WandaVision. Honestly, I've been barking up this tree since Infinity War because he has such a heavy tie in the comics to it. But Mephisto, if Ghost Rider's involved with this series, Mephisto is who bestowed the power onto Ghost Rider. He has a lot of ties to Blade. He has a lot of ties to the supernatural side of Marvel as a whole. All of these characters have had run-ins with him. And so many other characters in the MCU that they could retroactively incorporate the influence of Mephisto into like the events of WandaVision, into the events of Infinity War. And we would eat that up because it makes sense. He's the devil. The devil's always in the back trying to manipulate more than actively do stuff himself. And it would fit. So this is the time, man. Give us Mephisto. If not centered around a bunch of characters who love hell, the Demon World and the Dark Dimension, there is never going to be an introduction of Mephisto if this is not it.
Hey, bro, I don't think he ever comes. That's like the biggest troll in the world, the Mephisto thing. And
It's really hard with all the censorship issues in other countries too, because a lot of countries that are big money pools for Marvel Studios would have to completely cut the idea of the devil or Mephisto, who is just a shorthand name for Mephistopheles, which is the devil. Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but if not Mephisto, I don't know who else would be the villain. There is no other character who would not just get shit on by that lineup of badasses.
yeah,
Or I would even like to see the introduction of Doctor Doom. As part of the Midnight Suns, I know he has a lot of ties into the supernatural world. Given his mother, she's like the original head of the coven of the witches. Blah blah blah. But that also ties back to Mephisto. She is trapped in his dimension, being tortured by him. Doctor Strange. Doctor Doom comes once a year to battle Mephisto for his mother's soul. Loses every time. Uh, I want to see that story on screen. It is such a good, tragic Doom story. It makes you feel for him like he's the hero. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on it. And let us know your thoughts down below.
You've all probably been wondering where you can find all the sweet shirts I wear on the channel, including this one. Well, wonder no more. Pages, Panels, and Pictures is now teaming with Studio 5 Star to bring you guys all your favorite comic and anime graphic tees and decal stickers. Those products are only available for a limited time though, so get them while you can and use the promo code PANELS at checkout for 30% off your order. Swing by their shop and many things on Etsy, link is in the description below, and you can check them out on Instagram at Studio 5 Star Official. You can find my co-host on all forms of social media at TilDN, and you can check me out on Instagram at RoachTheBoyWonder. There you can get updates on this channel, you can get some pretty cool artwork, and you can even hit me up for all your art commission needs. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when we drop another video. And on that note, this has been Pages, Panels, and Pictures, your one-stop spot for comics, movies, and more. We will see you guys around, but until then, remember, all praise be to Khonshu. See ya.